If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. As they continue to censor channels like this, as they try to smoke us out off of YouTube, today's show is the reason that they want to smoke channels like mine off of YouTube and get people like me to stop talking about it, because these are the real important issues. And that is exposing Mystery Babylon itself, also known as the Synagogue of Satan. Now, those of you who have seen the videos I've posted on the Talmud, this is going to be another informative video about some other teachings inside the Talmud that promote pedophilia. So for the people out there who are saying, let's get to Comet Ping Pong and arrest James Alefantis and all that stuff, this runs so deep that, you know, the teachings inside the Talmud are some of the sickest things you will ever read in your life. And as Christians, we need to stand against this and fight it, because they are coming after Christians. And channels like this are dangerous to them because of the methods that I use on this channel in exposing the New World Order. Now, somebody's going to come here, and I get that someone's going to go, who cares about Katy Perry and Illuminati symbolism? But they don't understand. You know, young kids aren't on YouTube searching for Zionism and searching for the New World Order, but they might be looking for Katy Perry. Then they might see some of this stuff. Then they might look at a couple other videos from some of their favorite musicians, and they start figuring out what's going on. And they start unprogramming from the programming. That's why they want channels like this gone, because this is going to help young kids, even adults, obviously, who listen to this channel, start to realize what the truth of the matter is. With all the things that we see going on, we can all, you know, it all correlates back to the Synagogue of Satan and these fake Jews. So again, if you haven't become a patron for this channel, please do so. A few dollars a month really will help this channel with the extreme censorship that's going on. I don't know how much longer I can last here, but I have some alternative ideas that I'm working on. And I'll keep everybody posted on that in the upcoming days, weeks as it develops. But again, I'll leave the link below for Patreon. I appreciate it if you would help support this channel. Now, Ted Pike is the man in the Talmud video that I posted talking about Zionism. I feel like he's one of the best out there and one of the first that really was going after this many years ago. The videos obviously are a little bit funny because they look, you know, like a dated movie you would see in the 80s on, you know, they might play like on the public access channel or something, but it's extremely informative. And I'm going to play you a couple of clips from this movie called Zionism and Christianity, an Unholy Alliance, because that's what it is. It's an unholy alliance. And I want you to see some of the things that they're teaching inside the Talmud and how important it is to know this stuff. The woman in the video is Ted Pike's wife. For those of you who listen to this channel, you should all believe in spiritual warfare. That woman, God bless her, God rest her soul, put herself out there with Ted, exposing Zionism and the New World Order, and she became under such heavy spiritual attacks, demonic attacks. Her life ended tragically, and, you know, Ted Pike kept plugging along, and so did his wife, and I have nothing but admiration and respect for the work that they've done. So I want to put these clips in here. At the end, the first clip will be about the Talmud, and you could see all of the things that these rabbis talk about, these Pharisees that Jesus was going against in the Bible, who were teaching these things back then in Babylon, about having sex with 3-year-olds, how it's okay to have sex with little boys. And you could relate it to what's going on in the world today. Now that people are waking up with Pizzagate and all this other stuff that people are starting to hear about, realize this isn't just powerful elite people because once you have money, oh, you just want to have sex with kids all of a sudden. This is the Synagogue of Satan. This is, you know, sick people who are Zionists, who are fake Jews, who follow these teachings that go back to Mystery Babylon. And it's been going on since then, and it hasn't stopped. This is nothing new. Okay, so here's the clip, the two clips I'm going to play. The last clip, it talks about, you know, what is the future for Christianity, and it's really more of a warning for people. And I think it's important to put in here because people need to realize that Zionism is the enemy of Christianity. It is not a friend of Christianity because it is the synagogue of Satan.
In the 16th chapter of Ezekiel, God's chosen tribe, Israel, is portrayed in an amazing relationship with her Creator. She is Jehovah's unique bride among the nations. We are told that Jehovah, who is actually Jesus, chose Israel alone among the nations to become his spiritual wife, to have spiritual relations with him. Yet this passage goes on to describe how Israel prostituted that relationship. She became a spiritual harlot by worshiping other gods. In no less than 86 clear passages in the Old Testament, Israel is pointedly described as a whore. In fact, having been the first to marry God, she became the mother of spiritual harlots. Although many religious systems throughout history have turned their backs on Christ to become spiritual harlots, only apostate Israel is the mother of the principle of spiritual whoredom. Only apostate Israel has mother of harlots branded on her forehead forever.
Throughout the Old Testament period, Christ tried to persuade his harlot bride to return to him. Finally, he came to earth in one last effort to reconcile her. Her response? She had him crucified. So ended the marriage of Christ to Israel. He divorced her and chose a bride composed of believing Jews and Gentiles. After the mother of harlots was divorced from her husband, she became enraged at his new bride, the early church. The book of Acts tells how Jews ruthlessly persecuted and attempted to destroy the church. Yet soon after rebelling against Rome, first in 70 AD, then in 132 AD, the harlot herself was persecuted by the Romans and cast out of her promised land. For the next 1,000 years, Jews dwelt in Babylon, absorbing its witchcraft and occultry. In fact, no other nation, except the modern Iraqis, have lived longer in Babylon than the harlot Israel. From the exile of Nebuchadnezzar in 586 BC to their expulsion from Babylon in the 11th century AD, the majority of Jews lived in Babylon for 1,600 years. Longer than they had lived in Palestine. In Babylon, the Pharisees, who had become the uncontested spiritual leaders of the Jews, incorporated many Babylonian perversions into their new anti-Bible, the Babylonian Talmud. In the Talmud, the mother of harlots turned upside down literally everything her ex-husband Jesus had taught her. In the book of Deuteronomy, God warns the Hebrews that if they rejected him, they would become cursed above all nations. Eventually, they not only rejected his law, but crucified the giver of that law. As a result, the Jewish people have been led into a dark and waterless pit of spiritual confusion called the Talmud. For the last 2,000 years, there they have remained under the spiritual authority of the Pharisees, those who masterminded the death of Jesus. 2 millennia of such spiritual darkness is proof that the ancient curse in Deuteronomy still lies heavily on the Jews.
In my book, Israel, Our Duty, Our Dilemma, I detail how Judaism was corrupted by the occult and immoral practices of Babylon. Let's touch very briefly on just one aspect of such depravity, pederasty, or the sexual molestation of children. Today, the greatest rabbis of the Talmud would be locked up as child molesters. Pederasty was deeply entrenched among the most respected Talmudic rabbis. It was taken for granted that the local rabbi could acquire a baby girl at 3 years of age as his sex toy simply by raping her. Here are several passages from many in the Talmud granting such permission. In Nida 45b, a woman asks, "Master, at what age may a woman marry?" "At the age of 3 years and 1 day, he told her. A girl of 3 years and 1 day may be betrothed by intercourse. Rabbi Joseph said, "Come and hear. A maiden of 3 years old and a day may be acquired in marriage by coition. When a grown-up man has intercourse with a little girl, it is nothing." The footnote to this passage says, tears come to the eye again and again, so does virginity come back to the little girl under 3 years. Although the Talmud forbids homosexuality among adult Jews, sodomy with small boys is permitted. Leviticus 20:13 forbids sexual relations between men. The Talmud, however, defines a boy under 9 years of age as a minor, not a man. He is excluded from the biblical prohibition. Since the boy is not sexually mature, the Talmud teaches, he cannot throw guilt upon the rabbi who rapes him. Only he who is able to engage in sexual intercourse may throw guilt upon the active offender, whilst he who is unable to engage in sexual intercourse cannot.
It is significant that the pederasty we have mentioned is endorsed by the very greatest rabbis of the Talmud. These include Rabbi Ben Zakkai, Rabbi Ben Yohai, and Rabbi Akiba. Christ accused the Pharisees of all uncleanness. This may have included child sex.
Her civil liberties organizations, such as the Anti-Defamation League, the American Civil Liberties Union, and People for the American Way, have long conditioned the world to believe that criticism of Jews is anti-Semitism, a form of hate.
Under Israel's new world order, Christian pastors will be jailed as haters and their churches closed.
The harlots' media will be flooded with horror stories of how Pentecostal Christian evangelists have victimized the poor. They promise them material prosperity in return for money, defrauding them of their pittance of welfare and social security funds. Lawmakers will make it a form of genocide to convert anyone to Christianity, especially a Jew.
Anyone who witnesses in public will be guilty of proselytizing, a hate crime punishable by fines and imprisonment. Because of its historic condemnation of homosexuality and blame upon Judaism for the crucifixion of Christ, authentic Christianity will be universally regarded as the most hateful of all religions. While tolerance will be extended to every cult and perverted practice, humanity will agree that Christianity should be outlawed. As the harlot's control solidifies, and the anger of mankind is whipped to a frenzy against Christianity, it will become possible, as it was under Jewish communism, to imprison millions of Christians. As the church languishes, starving in the cold of the coming gulags, gone will be the romantic litany that God blesses those who bless Israel. With the Star of David flying over the world, the church, decimated and nearing extinction, will at last recognize the enemy who has taken off her smiling mask and turned with fury. All that will remain for Christians is hope that death, or the coming of Christ, will deliver them. Meanwhile, almost every Christian will have to live with the gnawing guilt that if only they had heeded Jesus' warnings and been suspicious of those he described as the synagogue of Satan, this unending nightmare could have been avoided. Most Christians, of course, had passionately supported the rise to power of those who are now their cruel oppressors. Most criticized as anti-Semitic those few voices who tried to warn them. Now the previous world is gone, impossible to be recovered. Gone are the mega churches and smooth-speaking televangelists they loved so well. Now, in an endless hell on earth, they can do nothing but repent and curse not only their own foolishness, but that of the generations of Christian leaders before them. They were supposed to be watchmen on the wall. Yet they failed to utter even a hint of warning.